Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another week of the Rapid Review. Appreciate everybody joining on the live streams, both on YouTube and on X. As always, chat is open. Any questions, comments, stocks you want to look at later, because we will go through a couple charts, just throw it in the comments, and I will make sure that I get to it. But yep, appreciate everybody's support. Other than that, without further ado, let's get started with the Rapid Review. All right. So as always, disclaimer, you know the deal. It's educational purposes only, not financial investment or trading advice. Read the disclaimer, and yeah, let's get going. What is going on, Chad? Good to see you in here. All right. So let's get started with the market direction. We are in an uptrend, and we are in a power trend. I've been really riding that 21-day as of recently, so that power trend is fully intact. Everything's looking beautiful. In terms of distribution days, currently sitting at 6 distribution days on the S&P, 2 distribution days on the NASDAQ. So when we break down what went on this week, quick update for those who watch every single week. Anything that is in black font is going to be a stalling day. Anything that is in the grayish font is going to be a regular distribution day. And then, as always, the highlighted yellow is those stalling days not counted towards the actual count of the distribution tracker. So getting into what happened on the S&P. On Tuesday, we lost the 8/11 distribution day. Now, IBD did not show that distribution day. I've discussed this a couple times. Essentially, different volume sources. Some showed that the volume was higher than the prior day. Some showed that it was not higher than the prior day. I chose to err to the side of caution and count that distribution day. So that's why you are not seeing on Tuesday a distribution day falling off through IBD, but you are hearing about it from me. So, but needless to say, now me and IBD are lined up, and that was really the only action that we had on the S&P, which is so pretty much the exact same distribution that we've seen for the compared to last week. Hey, what's up, Vampiro? All right, looking at the NASDAQ, this had a ton of change this week. It was like almost every day but Friday we had something going on. So Monday we lost the September 2nd distribution day, and that was due to price action. We had moved 5% above what that day's close was, now eliminating that day from the count. So that was super positive action. But on Tuesday, we dropped the 8/11 distribution day. We dropped that one. That was due to that one was due to time, I believe. And then we also, that dropped off a stalling day because we can't have the same amount of distribution days and regular distribution days and stalling days. So we had to lose one of those stalling days to the count, which dropped even more distribution off. So 2 days lost on Tuesday. Wednesday, we gained a distribution day. I'm going to talk about this more when we go into the indexes. It was technically, by the criteria, counted as a distribution day, but the price action in and of itself was not very negative. So we'll look at that in the chart and go a little deeper into that. And on Thursday, we lost the August 13th day, which was due to time, and the August 19th due to price. So ton of distribution kind of moving around all this week, and that ended up leaving us where we see now. We have the 9/5 stalling day, and we have the 9/17 distribution day, giving us a 2 count because the 9/10 is now pending. In terms of next week, the S&P is going to see a ton of action in terms of the distribution. We're going to see 3 of these days, the 8/15, the 8/19, the 8/20, all will be dropping off next week due to time, 25 trading days since that distribution day occurred. If we do see even a 1.13% increase in the S&P at any point during the week, we will also lose this 9/2 distribution day, which that will get us down to 2 distribution days. Very positive action. For the NASDAQ, we could easily see us drop off the September 5th distribution day because we're 4.29%. So it would take less than a 1% move in order to get above that 5%. But with that happening, when we do lose this one, it will then activate this stalling day. So positive action, but at the same time, the count is going to remain the same because this stalling day will become active. Overall, very, very positive when I'm looking at the distribution. The distribution that occurred, like I said, this week wasn't very concerning. We're low on the NASDAQ. We're about to lose a ton of days on the S&P. So super, super positive action within the distribution day tracker. Looking at what went on this week, the S&P was up 1.22%, NASDAQ up 2.21%, and the Dow up 1.05%. So again, NASDAQ leading out the week, NASDAQ leading out the year, with the S&P this year up 13.31%, NASDAQ up 17.20%, and the Dow up 8.86%. So green across the board, NASDAQ continuing to lead, NASDAQ leading out the year. Very, very positive in this uptrend. Looking at the moving averages, everything is still sitting properly. We still have the 10, the 21, the 50, and the 200 in that stacking order. We're still above every single day. The NASDAQ actually did climb a little further away from the 10-day simple moving average. As always, the further we get away from those moving averages, the more and more likely we are for a healthy pullback, whether it is to the 10 or even to the 21. So something to keep an eye on. I don't think we're super, super far extended yet. We've seen us get more extended off of the 10 and the 21 than this before. But again, anything can happen. So just keep an eye on those levels, but overall positive action. All right, let's jump over. Oops, wrong button. Let's jump over and take a look at the indexes. Let's start off by looking at, as we always do, the NASDAQ on the daily. So very, very strong week, like I had mentioned already. We continued to move to make those all-time highs. We started out the week very, very strong on Monday the 15th with a nice up day, almost was at 0.94%. Volume was a little bit lighter than the last Friday, but overall very strong day. Tuesday, we had that kind of flat day. We looked like you were trying to make a high, then we kind of rolled over, closed down slightly for the day. Nothing too concerning. Wednesday, now this was the big day, and this is kind of partially why I think Tuesday was a flat day. We knew we had the Fed meeting coming out Wednesday. Everybody was kind of sitting on their edge of their seats, trying to see what Powell was going to do, and it was just one of those big news items that we knew was going to bring volatility to the market. So prior, and you can actually see this if you go in. Where are we on Wednesday? Here we go, Wednesday. So you can actually see this Wednesday. We kind of were trending down, down, down as we were coming into the meeting. The meeting was at 2:30, and like at 2 o'clock, the volatility just went crazy. We went down, we went up, and then finally, I guess once really the news started to pour in that there was going to be a rate cut, we saw the market rebound and climb right back towards those highs. So this, like I had mentioned, this was that distribution day. But the very, very positive action that we had was that we pulled in towards the 10-day, we found support, and then off of that news, we rallied and closed up towards the highs. Now, criteria-wise, again, still counts as a distribution day. We still had higher volume than the prior day, but this to me is very, very healthy reaction as we pulled in and then kind of rebounded. As much as it's a distribution day, I look at it very, very different than any other distribution day just because of the way we acted intraday. Thursday and Friday, we continued to climb up higher, closing out the week on all-time highs. The big thing, you're probably seeing this giant volume bar and going, wow, look at such a powerful positive day. Keep in mind that that extra volume that we're seeing on Friday is due to quad witching day. If you do not know what that is, we're getting a contract expiration of both stock index futures, options on stock index futures, stock index options, and options on individual stocks, all of those expiring. So all those orders kind of being filled, and then we're getting a ton of volume pouring into the market. So just keep that in mind. That's why we saw such high volume there. All right, let's jump over to the weekly. We're seeing closing near those all-time highs, continuing that high trend, looking at things from a high level, just breaking out of this sideways action that we had starting over in the beginning of August. Again, very, very positive action. And again, obviously that volume is a little skewed. All right, so looking at the key levels. On the upside, it's very, very simple. We're looking at all-time highs. Nothing more complicated than nothing complicated about that. Just moving towards those all-time highs. On the downside, kind of remaining the same way we've always looked, right? Like I said, the 10 and the 21, we're always looking at that levels. But a pullback to those levels isn't anything overly concerning. It could just be normal, healthy action. The real thing to look for is how we interact at those levels. The price level that I really want to keep an eye on really is this August 13th high. We kind of broke out of that base, trended higher, Ideally, we want to stay above that level. If we start dipping into where all this kind of chop was happening, it's going to make me a little bit more concerned. Inside of that, we got the 50-day, and then down of that, we have the September 2nd low, which we're starting to get down to this point and dropping that quickly. This is, I'm going to be probably out of the market at this point. But other than that, that's kind of really what we're looking at in terms of just the key levels and price levels to look at. But things are trending up. Things are looking positive. Just, be aware that the pullback can happen and could still be healthy. All right, looking at the S&P, I'll show it, but to be honest, there's nothing really to show here. It's pretty much identical to what we saw on the NASDAQ. So I'll let that populate. One of the things that I did want to bring up, though, is the Russell, because this has just been ripping, absolutely ripping. We broke out of this sideways action over here, and it has just continued to trend and ride that 10-day, showing a lot of positive action. Very, very, very good to see this. These small caps are doing very, very well. For a lot of us, especially growth stock traders, I think this is bringing a lot of the success that we're seeing. So good to see those small caps showing success, and something I just wanted to take note of. All right. Other than that, if nobody has any questions or anything that they want to jump in on with any of these indexes, price levels, or anything that's happening in the overall market, I'll give everybody a second, and we could always jump back. But I'm going to jump over to Deepvue, and we are going to take a look at the theme tracker. All right, so for those of you who don't know, I am a Deepvue partner. This is the tool that I use for all my screening, all my charting, getting all of my fundamental data. It is the only application that I know of that accurately shows non-GAAP data, which is what I want when I'm looking at growth stocks. And the screening in this is just next level and super intuitive. So if you are interested in this, in YouTube, I do have a link. There's a wait list to join, but it should be opening up in the next couple of weeks for new subscribers. Just get your name on that wait list. And on X, I have a link in my profile, like bio. And there's also discount codes in both of those too. So, and if you have any questions, just shoot me a message. All right. Looking at the theme tracker, the first column was how we finished off Friday. So very, very good. Seeing that continuation of the miners, the quant stocks, solar, AI. But one of the things you can see, I like to focus on the weekly, and I like to focus on the 1 month. And the big thing that I've kind of noticed is it feels like it's just the miners every single week at those tops, specifically the Bitcoin miners. But if it's coming out of the ground, for the most part, it's been showing some success. Other than that, you got the quantum stocks, AI related, China, nuclear has been very strong, and uranium and other metals coming out of the earth related to nuclear, genomics kind of popping up and showing some strength too, and starting to climb up in the rankings. Yeah, the big thing here, I look at this every week. I want to focus on the leaders. And like I said, if I'm looking at leaders, it's the miners, it's the AI-related trends, it's the Bitcoin-related trends, a little bit of China, and the nuclear kind of side of things. And you guys can kind of see that up here very, very clearly. All right, so in terms of exposure levels, I like to do this every single week, talk about where I feel I should be in terms of how much risk I have thrown into the market. We're in a powerful uptrend. There is no question about it. It's just we were like this in this sideways chop, and it felt like we were never going to get out of that sideways chop. And then now you can see how quickly things can change. What felt like a very hard penny market has completely changed, where now it feels like if you buy most of these leading industries, you're seeing some success, and it's becoming more of an easy dollar market for sure. Positive to see us continue to follow through after those all-time highs. It's not that we're tipping over, getting all-time highs and rolling back over. We're hitting all-time highs. We're continuing to push higher. And overall, the price action in the overall market and the price action in a lot of the leading stocks that I'm looking at is acting healthy. So very, very good to see that. Like I said, the big thing, these leaders continue to lead. And the way that I'm seeing it right now is these big institutions are looking to the future of what our world really honestly is going to be. They're talking AI. They're talking crypto, the chips, nuclear, quantum, all these groups that we were just kind of looking at in that theme tracker. The things that are going to be changing the way that we work, live, and play, they're dumping money into those things. And this is becoming what could be some stocks that are going to be multi-year leaders possibly. So The big thing I think right now is focus on those leaders. This is a great market for growth stock traders because we're very, very in tune with a lot of the game-changing stocks that are kind of starting to show that strength and become some of those maybe eventually household names. So very, very great environment for growth stock traders right now. Yeah, like I said, easy dollar market. Easily be 100% invested. I'm sure there are people on margin. I am very, very careful on when I put on margin, and being that we're a little extended, I'm a little patient. I'd probably wait for a pullback before I did that because, again, as we start to keep trending higher and higher, you know that a pullback can be completely healthy, completely normal. And because of that, it's very important that you have a plan, you know where your stops are, and you don't allow any of that crazy intraday action to scare you out of what could just be normal action within your stocks. Be prepared. Don't stop screening. Don't stop keeping an eye out for that next great stock. You can get stopped out of something in your portfolio that you thought was going to be a big name, and now you have some free capital, and there may be another big name that could be getting ready to take off. And if you're not looking for those, you're going to miss them. So always be looking for those next big stocks. All right. I don't see anybody that's commented stocks, but we're going to go into some stocks in Deepvue. So if you have something you want me to bring up on screen, just throw it in either the X or the YouTube comment section. I'll bring it up. Let's jump back over to Deepvue though. All right, and let's see. So I threw a couple names up here. Actually, I believe Chad, who's over on YouTube, I think you wanted to look at this one, I believe. So we'll look at ANET. I always start off kind of on the weekly chart just because it gives me a good context of what's really going on with that stock. And let's see, make sure I have what I need open. All right, good. Everything looks good. So, look, this has been in a very, very strong uptrend, really, since the market's kind of turned around, showing that real strong strength off of the bottoms of the market. And as you can see, as we got up towards where that market started to see some chop, this kind of pulled back and went sideways for a little bit. The fundamentals look great on this. You guys can kind of see, even just from a composite rating and all these Deepvue scores, minus the EPS, that could be a little bit better. But overall, I think everything looks super strong. So looking at the daily, look, ideally, you were probably buying somewhere deep in here as we kind of tested here, reclaimed. If you're more of a swing trader, if you are more of a CANSLIM purist and base breakout trader, there's a good chance you bought in here and then it's kind of pulled back and squatted. And then one of the things that I have noticed in this market is you're getting a lot of these. You're getting a lot of these big uptrends, pullbacks to the 21, sideways action, attempt to break out to new highs, a little bit of a run, pullback and squat, then tightening up and then re-breaking out. And a lot of those stocks doing very well. So this market action has been very consistent with what I've seen in a lot of stocks that have gone on runs. It kind of reminds me, and when I see the same setup happen over and over in certain times of the market, it just makes me a little bit more aware of what these stocks could be doing. So in the beginning of this market, it was double bottoms. There was double bottom breakouts going all over the place. I was playing that double bottom breakout a lot. With this, like I said, I've been seeing this a lot. If you're in this, great, right? Let's say even you bought in right around here, you know, you got some cushion. You may have been stopped out. I know there are probably a lot of people who did maybe have a tight stop and got stopped out. It depends on how you look at this. Regardless, I think this is a name that is worthy of putting in your portfolio. Your entry is what you need to ask yourself. If this is extended for you and you're a swing trader and this is too far off the moving averages, too far off of this low right here, let's see. You know, that's too far for you. Completely understand. There'll be other trades. If you are somebody who wants to see us break out to that all-time high over here, almost like a cup and high handle, understand that. I just think that this is a name worth paying attention to. Realistically, I think that if we can break to all-time highs, this will probably keep going higher. It's just a matter of where you get in and how you can manage your risk in this one, because we could chop in here a little bit before we actually make it out too. It doesn't always have to be a complete vertical move, but definitely one I would pay attention to. The next name I wanted to bring up is Coin. This name, if we're looking at it, again, I'll do the weekly first. So fundamentals, definitely something to pay attention to, right? That last quarter is just ridiculous amount of EPS growth. The sales growth is kind of sideways and choppy, but kind of different industry, I guess you would say, in terms of sales. Tons of institutional sponsorship. We have some good strength on the 12-month, but the 3-month and the 1-month have been lagging. Very, very strong industry group. Overall, this is just, here's your annual as well. Annual sales looks beautiful. But overall, this is definitely fundamentally a stock that I'd be looking to pay attention to. Shows enough of the characteristics. And just in of itself, we know that this is one of those crypto leaders. Looking at things on the daily. So with those swing traders, we're seeing a lot of those converging moving averages, the tight action, very strong possibility that swing traders probably look to buy this on Thursday as we kind of broke out of here and bounced off of these tight moving averages. And hopefully, if you're somebody of that style, you did get in there. And Van Pro said entered Oust recently and may add a little more. Okay, I'll bring that one up too. Now, for this, if you are not that style of trader, if you're not the swing trader buying in here, I think this is one that you just want to keep an eye on, put a watch list. This is not necessarily going to just skyrocket out, not give you an opportunity to get into it. Likely, there will be some point in here where it'll allow the moving averages to catch up, or it will some sort of flagging or tight action that can get you in. Big thing I'm saying here is I think this is one to pay attention to and see if you can identify a setup that will allow you to get in. For me, it's a little too far off right now to enter, kind of a little too far extended from those moving averages, and would rather wait for another setup on that. Let's bring up Vampiro said Oust. All right. I think a lot of you guys know this one in terms of the fundamentals of this stock. This was, I think, all over. So many people talking about this name. I think it was probably the most talked about name in the second half of my week on my X feed. So I'm sure everybody's seen this. I'm sure everybody's identified this chart and looked at this chart. I know, Vampro, you said you may add a little bit more soon. I guess my question to you on that would just be, where would you add? What would be your add-on point? For me, as I'll let you type, look, this is just a beautiful cup pattern forming right here. Beautiful, beautiful cup pattern. I think there was definitely a good opportunity to get in here for a swing trade, even whether you're drawing, and we might have actually talked about this one as a group. Yeah, whether you're drawing these downtrending lines, looking at the moving averages, the kind of pop up right here, even here with that little spike in volume, breaking that downtrend line, bouncing off those moving averages, reclaiming all those moving averages, real positive action. That was probably the day to enter. And then the follow-up day was just ridiculous, 13.43%. So beautiful to see that. Normal action as we're seeing us get to those all-time highs that were kind of stalling, may even pull back a little bit, and ideally that could be another opportunity to enter on this one. So even for the pure CANSLIM traders looking for a base breakout, look, we formed that right-hand side of the base. We're coming up to those all-time highs. We may be giving a handle, which is a great way to have a technical stop for risk. So, and Vampiro, I see that you are also looking at this the same, saying that if we can get to those 52-week highs, that would be your add-on point. Ideally handle. Yep, same thing. Yep, so we're both looking at the same. Ideally seeing the handle, 52-week highs. Doesn't always have to. Could just be cup breakout. But yeah, ideally you see this. I keep saying ideally. You see this kind of give you a small handle or even just some sideways tight action before it breaks out to all-time highs, giving you a little area to assess your risk. All right, what else we got in here? X, I see there's a decent amount of people in there, but everybody's a little quiet on X. YouTube taking over the chat today. All right, let's see. Palantir, name I wanted to bring up. The swing trade's kind of out and gone, I think, for many people as we've broke out of the sideways action. But this is one, especially for you CANSLIM traders, This is a leader. This is a stock that everybody's talking about. The fundamentals are good on this one. We're starting to form that right-hand side of the base. Same thing we were talking about with Oust. How do we interact towards those 52-week highs? Is this going to be a traditional cup breakout? Are we going to have a handle formation? But overall, I just love seeing that from a volume profile. The volume starts to dry up in the bottom. We get the tight sideways action. We find support really right around that 50-day. We rebound, start to climb up to the right-hand side. Volume has been starting to pour in. This is just a beautiful, beautiful chart. I really do love this action, and ideally we get some sort of a handle in there. Shop, I think a name a lot of people forget about. This is one of those names that years ago was on most people's watch list, on most people's feeds in terms of what people are talking about. What we could see here is also one of those kind of cup patterns. There looked like there was this kind of pullback here, probably some opportunities for some entries, but yeah, ideally, same thing, looking at those 52-week highs. And this is where when people are like, this market can't go on any longer, when I'm seeing a lot of these names, and these are not the only names that are setting up with new base pattern breakouts and things that are setting up for bigger moves, I'm like, okay, not every stock is extended. Some stocks are extended, don't get me wrong. It almost feels like we're going to possibly have a little bit of some tight action in the market, and then we could be stair-stepping to another leg up the way a lot of these stocks are acting. Again, doesn't necessarily happen. These could fail and we could roll over, but just my kind of overview from that. All right, I'll keep going through some of these names I have in there, and unless anybody has some other stuff they want to add. Oracle, another name, all over everybody's feed. Insane. Taking out Elon Musk, no longer the richest man in the world. 35.88% at the close move on those earnings. Absolutely ridiculous move for a stock of that size. Insane. I don't know of any stock in the recent years that has moved that amount at that high of market cap. Telling you something. That is telling you something. Well, what is great about this, and for those that are like, oh, I missed it. Well, you didn't, because it's starting to pull back. It's kind of starting to maybe give a secondary entry. Great opportunity if we can see these moving averages really catch up to that. Would just be ideal. Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen. You can look to that low, right? Taking out that low is, I think, where I would start getting extremely bearish on this one. So if we can hold above that, 5.89% to that point. So there's an area to assess your risk in this. The question is this just going to be a pullback to the 10 and a bounce? Is this going to be more of a longer base pattern that's going to form? With the strength of this move, with what this name is doing, I think that you might have to just try to find a way to get into this and assess your risk, and it might be how it kind of was on Friday. So something to watch on, see how this interacts on the inside of this base. Hopefully it can continue to tighten up, give you even more of a good point to assess your risk, though, of not only the price level, but also off the moving averages. Yeah, name, I think, clearly to watch, because we know this is going to be a big player. It's been a big player in the world in general, but it's really going to be a big player with everything that's going on and the changes and things happening. Last one, SoundHound. So this had a nice cup handle breakout right here. This is just one of those names that I think a lot, and this was, I don't think necessarily this is buy right now. You're extended. You definitely want to keep an eye on this one. But this is a prime example of one of those names that people were talking a lot about, and then I feel like it just completely fell off everybody's radar out of nowhere. Like, this was just talked about, especially around here, so much because of this big move that it made. And then it just seemed like everybody just stopped talking about it because we had this pullback. And right as everybody stopped talking about it, it's kind of tightened up, and now it's started to climb up again. We got this handle. It re-broke out. The volume looks great in this one. Really just one of these names that I would kind of keep an eye on, because it's showing very, very strong action. And don't forget about these names that come up on your loss list. All of a sudden, people forget about names, and then they secretly in the background come back and take a big run. So just wanted to bring that up. This isn't anything that I think is actionable right now. I feel like it's already broken out, but keep an eye on it. All right. Other than that, looks like we got nothing else over there. All right, let's finish this up. So, look, I talked about my exposure levels. I talked about the open market. We talked about theme stocks, kind of everything. The big thing I wanted to really kind of bring up that I haven't talked about a lot, and anybody who knows me knows I'm a big proponent of focusing on your mindset. I see it happen all the time in every aspect of life, not just trading. Mindset is absolutely everything. It can make or break you. And what you're doing to keep your thoughts in check, what you're doing to set yourself up for success because you're mentally dialed to make those right decisions is extremely important. Too many people, I think that the mindset side of things is just their personality. It's who they are, and it's uncontrollable. And people are, oh, he's built for trading. He's not built for trading. That is an absolute load of shit. Absolute load of shit. You can do a lot to help better yourself, to help perfect your mind, especially when it comes into trading. Me, myself, I've meditated for years. It has made me much, much more aware of the things that go on in my head, given me the ability to stop myself from making stupid decisions, setting things up, planning things out, having stops, having watch lists, having routines that you follow for the processes that you go through in terms of trading are all going to help to eliminate those stupid decisions and help eliminate those emotions. I say it not every single week, but I say it very often. No OMDs, no open market decisions. Same reason, controlling those emotions, of not allowing them to negatively impact your trading. Make those decisions when the market is closed, when the intraday action isn't driving you nuts, when you see ticks up and ticks down. That's the stuff that you can do to help perfect your setup so your mind can perform the best overall in trading. Because fear, greed, ego, more often than not, that's what's killing people. It's not the lack of knowledge. It's not the lack of understanding of a trading strategy. There's a reason where you see people who have been trading for years somehow still make stupid decisions, and it's not because they don't understand what they're doing. It's because their emotions, like I just mentioned, ego, fear, greed, have them make stupid decisions that when they look back in a post analysis, they go, and I've done this myself. Why the hell did I do this? Like, I know this is stupid. Why did I do it? So overall, look, do your work over the weekend, have a plan, journal so you can kind of just audit what's going on in your mind, control the content that you're consuming. Don't waste your time with stupid content. Don't waste your time. Like, I'm a big proponent of, I do not watch financial news because it's just going to slowly creep in my head and slowly start to influence my decisions when I just want to focus on my strategy, price action, volume. That's what helps me to trade, not the nonsense that's put out on the news, because it's just not effective. Overall, look, don't compare yourself to others. That's another big thing. That's only going to put you on tilt. And yeah, just keep doing the work, keep grinding. And people have done it. People have been very successful. If somebody else can do it, anybody can do it. That's just kind of the simplicity of it, especially with the market. All right. No other comments in here. I appreciate everybody joining this week. Closing it out, as you guys know, if you're watching on X, there's the YouTube channel. That's probably the best place to watch the replays of this. So if you jumped in later, go over to the YouTube channel. If you're not following me on X, I do have to get a little more active on there. I post, but not enough. So my X account's over there. Discord, shout out to Vanpro, Chad over on YouTube. I know you guys are in the Discord channel. Lots of great conversations. Now I think we're over 1,100 people in there. Professional traders, people who just started, brand new, all different styles of growth stock traders. Huge shout out to everybody there. And if you're interested, YouTube has the link in the description. X, you could just shoot me a message and I'll send you a link for that. Other than that, email's up there. If somebody who wants to email, I do check my email. That's it. That's all I got. Another week of trading. Market's been good. Things are nice. Won't last forever, but let's capitalize on it while it's here. That is all I got, everybody. Stay disciplined.